something that I think a lot of people do is that they don't try their hardest because they're afraid that if they truly try and then fail, then they're really a failure. And that's a scary thing.
Yeah.
And so, but by not trying, then it's this like negative feedback loop of like, well, then you're probably not going to make it or do it because you didn't try your hardest to do it.
Yeah.
And so we have a lot of people, you know, half-assing things or giving it a little bit of effort and then latching on of like, well, see, I told you it wasn't going to work. Well, you didn't try your hardest. You didn't try like everything. It didn't like, it costs nothing less than everything. That's T.S. Eliot. And I love that quote. And that's something that I think about a lot is like, it costs nothing less than everything. Because if you truly tried your hardest to do a thing, then like you won't like, and if it didn't like work out, well then like you won't be like, man, I should have like tried harder, you know.
Yeah.
Or like you're at the end, like we're all gonna like hopefully be at the end of our days consciously aware and able to look back at our life and like we have these questions like, did I live, did I love, did I matter? That's what Brendan Bouchard asks himself, and I thought that those three were so good, and like we're trying to find our own like questions like to do that, you know. But like, did I try my hardest to do the things that I wanted to do? And the answer better be yes.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that's hard to live with, right? Because you can't change that.
I feel like that's much harder to live with, right? I mean, I've talked about the fear of doing something versus the cost of not doing something.
Yeah.
And like having that rocking chair moment when you're looking back at your life and asking like, okay, did I give my all? Did I try the hardest? Did I fail epically? Like, I hope that answer is yes, because that is, at the end, it's so much better to have that like crazy story of you falling on your face than having the disappointment and the regret.
Yeah, and it's really easy to play it safe. It's really easy to play small. It's
to be comfortable.
So much of us like live our lives. Like if you're going to do something extraordinary and create something extraordinary, or like make something that didn't exist before you did, or like change the world, like you think that's gonna be easy? Like, no,
or
you think it's gonna like it's not gonna be this like, oh well, yeah, just randomly saved the world or like created this amazing thing that like was so impactful. Like no, that's not happening. It's gonna take a lot. It's gonna be hard. Like you're gonna like, it's gonna be grim and dark, and like the only way out is through. Like there's this like creepy tunnel you gotta go through, and there's spiders and cobwebs. Like, are you gonna go through it or not? You know, and a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
And so if you want to do something extraordinary, it's gonna cost everything. And so, you know, just be okay getting messy. Be okay doing it. Be okay failing, and like be so stoked and so proud of yourself that you're failing. Because you're doing a thing, right?
Yeah.
And it's so easy to like not try hard because you're trying to protect your little ego. You're trying to protect yourself.
I mean, it's survival.
Your fragile little
it makes
snowflake.
sense. Like we are like survival human beings, and we do want to be comfortable and safe, and we, fight or flight, right?
Yeah.
But it's so worth it. I mean, if you can think about the times in your life where you did give 100%, or those times when you were a kid and you didn't know how not to give 100%, what you got back, right? That was so worth the 100% that you gave. Or think about the times that you epically failed. Was it ever as bad as you thought it would be? Did the world stop? Did everything fall down? No. Like, what we imagine the worst case scenario to be, it never is that bad. And the thing is we are so resilient. I mean, there's research that shows people who have lost children, people who have gone through horrific things, a year later, they're living joyous lives and completely fine.
Yeah, or because of that horrific thing, then that's the story that they latched onto that's so motivational. Like, I mean, that's like the super common story.
Like, we are resilient.
Yeah, like Viktor Frankl's book, The Man's Search for Meaning, like a guy that like went through the Holocaust and like lost his wife and family, and like he found happiness like through in that. Like, it's this really powerful book. You should definitely read it. But there's like you're fine. It's good. It's gonna be okay. Like, it might be rough, it might be hard, it might feel like the worst thing ever, but like I would rather try and have a hard time and look back and be able to be like, well, I gave it everything, instead of being like, I didn't though. I could have tried harder.
Yeah.
That hurts.
That hurts more.
That would be rough.
Yeah. So we encourage you to just go and to fail epically and to throw yourself 100% into whatever it is that you want, and get clear on what you want.
That helps.
And then go for it.
Yeah. yeah, having a really big vision of like, this is the thing that I really want to do, and have it be like a positive vision, not like, well, I don't want this, I don't want this. It needs to be like a, yes, I'm gonna have this, this, and this, and I'm doing this for myself and for my family or for my loved one or for, you know, whatever the thing is, you know, like for the monkeys, for the sharks, like whatever the thing is, right? Like having a really big why is important. We're gonna do a video about finding your why.
Yeah.
That was like I had that on my phone, like my phone forever on the cover of it said why, because I didn't know, right? And I was really wanting, because I needed a clear vision of why am I working my ass off? Why am I trying so hard to do this thing? And I didn't know why. I knew, you know, I wanted to be successful, all these other things, but it needed to have something very clear and concise and particular. And so we're gonna do a video on how to find your why, because it's like this thing, like we oftentimes were like going to these courses and like listening to these books and like reading these, you know, all these other things, and it was never clear. It was like, cool, find your vision and then move on to here, and like there was like a, okay, but how? Like,
okay, I mean, how? Like, oh, just create a vision.
Yeah,
you know?
Or what were other ones that were like, okay, but like how do you actually do that? Like it was just these. Yeah, we're gonna go into all that stuff. But.
Because at the bottom of it, like humans, we're going to do what we want. Like discipline can only get you so far. Like if you're making yourself do something, or if you're making yourself go without something, it's not going to last long. We do, at the end of the day, we do what we want. And if we have a big enough why, that becomes our world, that becomes what we want. So we do the hard things, we do the uncomfortable things, because the reason of why we're doing it outweighs all the other stuff.
Like be stoked that you're not eating that cake because you have this awesome vision, or that like, yeah, I love that I'm not smoking a cigarette right now, or you know, it's like, cool, I'm so like super stoked that my friends are drinking and I'm not, because I'm doing this thing. I'm like, you can really like that. We've seen that happen.
Yeah.
Like that's a thing that can happen to people that thought that could never happen to them. So like there's a lot of possibilities out there when you really have a vision, when you really have a why, and then you're so outrageously excited about it. And just being outrageous about it and like really being so stoked about your vision really makes everything else like minuscule in comparison.
Yeah, it makes all the challenges and everything, it makes it worth it, right? So finding that why, which we'll do a video on. So to wrap up this one,
you know, be okay trying your hardest. And if you're not trying your hardest, be kind to yourself about it. But just be honest too. And like stop playing safe and playing small, and like, and if you're not able to do that, well, why? You know, why is that? And being okay asking those questions, but like you could do better, right? Like I could do better, you could do better, we could all do better.
When we give 100%. So being honest with yourself as to where you are in that, and then being honest with yourself about why. And if you're not sure, I mean, getting feedback from somebody that you know, like just becoming aware of it, you'll start to get answers. The more questions that you ask, the more answers that you'll get.
And I had a hard time finding clarity for a while, and I'm honestly still kind of looking for some clarity. Like I have a pretty general idea of like the things, but like we could all seek more clarity.
Clarity is like, it's an ongoing process, and always like evaluating and learning yourself and growing yourself, and self-mastery is an ongoing process too.
You're a perpetual student.
So it's just getting comfortable with like doing those uncomfortable things, with learning about yourself, with challenging yourself, with failing. It's just spreading, right? It's just stretching, and it's just growing. And we have been through a lot, and we are always going through a lot, and always learning and stretching and updating our maps of reality. And so, you know, we're here for you. Like, what is it that you are struggling with? Like, what videos do you want to see? What answers do you want answered, or what questions do you want answers to?
And so to wrap up, the general gist of the video is like, ask yourself, like, am I truly trying my hardest? And if not, why? And what could I do to try my hardest? And what would happen if I tried my hardest? What would that look like? What would that feel like? And what might happen? And what might happen if I don't?
Those are all great questions to ask for basically anything in your life.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's gonna take everything.